Thrifty Berger from Fun and Function. Our environment is very important to our sense of security and readiness for learning. In the last video, we learned about sensory rooms and spaces specially designed to promote a ready state for learning and interaction. In this segment, we'll explore safe and effective use of a sensory room and what policies and procedures to have in place to make sure everybody benefits. Do you have an underused room in your school? One that's only used part of the time? An extra classroom or a book room? Is the therapy room used to its maximum potential? Let's think creatively. Fun and Function offers assistance in planning a sensory room based on your budget and space needs. These rooms can be calming or alerting. We can engage all the senses at once and use whole body involvement. As we can see here, the boy climbing up the ladder has the tactile feel of the rungs. He uses his visual system to see where to put his hands. The proprioceptive feedback from his joints tells him where the foot is on the rung, and the position of his head provides the vestibular feedback. He may also be using his auditory system to listen to the directions of where to climb. This is truly an activity that coordinates the use of all of the senses. A sensory room can help students calm and focus, or use movement-based activities to gear up for learning. Sensory rooms can be used by the whole class, or we can send several children who need sensory intervention into a sensory room or sensory corner for a short intervention. It can also be used to engage in one-to-one therapeutic activities for the greatest impact. 10 minutes of activity can lead to up to 2 hours of focus. So if we take kids to the action room, it can help them to concentrate on their math sheets or on an upcoming test. A sensory room is meant to be used as part of the school day routine. It should not be used as a reward or punishment for students. It's meant to be part of the school day that supports kids' learning, just like art or speech therapy. When are optimal times of day that you might need the use of a sensory room? Is there a big test coming up for which the students could benefit from some sensory time beforehand? In order to maximize the use of your sensory room, you need a good strategy. You can bring together your own sensory tools with proper planning and design, or turn to us. Safety is a priority when using the sensory room. First and foremost, a sensory room is not a place for unsupervised play. Use active eyes-on adult supervision at all times in the sensory room. Visually inspect each piece of equipment before it is used by the children. Look at it carefully and check for signs of wear and tear. Is the carabiner wearing down? Are the trampoline springs exposed? Interact with the equipment. Give the swing a tug and check that the swing hook is secure. Feel the rungs or the climbing holds and check that they're stable. Inspect the equipment visually and physically each time before use. Carefully follow the safety instructions and guidelines included with each piece of equipment. For example, a single-point suspension swing needs a swivel. If kids are going to be moving, think swings, trampolines, or climbing walls, make sure to put out mats. Every piece of equipment comes with its own safety guidelines. The instructions should be displayed on the wall so that adults can easily refer to them. Beyond the safety instructions, here are some other safety considerations. Be sure to check with the school nurse that the child is medically cleared to safely use the equipment in your sensory room. Never impose movement on the child. If a child is scared, uninterested, or unwilling, you can expose them to the texture, movement, or sound, but never force it on them. Make sure that the equipment in use is appropriate and appealing for the age and the developmental level of the child. If you can, cover or put away tools that are not appropriate, if they're either above or below the developmental level of the children using the room. If not, direct the children towards the appropriate equipment. There are also policies and procedures that are important for maintaining your sensory room and maximizing its effectiveness. Have a process in place for cleaning and disinfecting the equipment. This will keep your room clean and germ-free. Consider your setup and storage carefully. To keep the room visually appealing to your students, small equipment can be kept in cubbies or storage bins so as not to clutter the visual fields. Part of your maintenance routine should include putting equipment, big and small, back in its proper place. Create routines for the room in order to prevent meltdowns. Consider transition cues when moving from activity to activity, and routines for entering and leaving the room. Post the rules for using the room, review the rules with the students each time they arrive in the room, and make sure to teach and practice these expectations. Children intuitively know what activities will meet their sensory needs, and they'll gravitate towards those activities and pieces of equipment. A child who needs calming will head for a beanbag chair, and a child who needs vestibular input will head for the trampoline. Work with the child to identify activities that appeal to them. Teachers can create procedures for helping kids identify which equipment they should use. If a child isn't participating or doesn't seem to be benefiting from the use of the sensory room, check with your school's OT to problem solve. Here is a great video that illustrates creating routines and demonstrates effective use of a sensory room.
Research shows that if the student's in the right mindset and they get their sensory needs met, they're going to be much better learners.
Hands to your heart space. Take a deep breath in.
The sensory room is probably my most important piece of the day. Students go to the sensory room in order to calm their bodies and get all the emotions out and stabilize themselves so they're ready to learn and they're happy.
When we designed the sensory room, we actually took the entire room apart. We carpeted the floor so that we could absorb some of the sound. We put the shades on the ceiling to change the light. So when they walk in that room, they feel the change.
My class specifically, we utilize the room once a day for a 30-minute break.
First thing that they do is go on the ball and they bounce to a metronome. It's really a way to ground them into the space and give them some sensory input before we have them go out into the room.
We're going to do our rotation now, okay?
So there's different stations in the sensory room, and some of my students love specific stations. One in particular loves the punching bag and the ropes. He's able to get all that anger and frustration out, so that calms him down. Whereas another student, I know he needs calming movements, so he's on the swing going back and forth.
Another area in the room is the crash pad. You will see students that have sensory issues bump into walls, bang their head. So what we've created is a safe space to crash into. And then there's the light wall. You could use your hands, you could use your feet. There's different games that are programmed on there.
Yes, good girl.
We also work on balance and coordination. The walking path works on all of those, and they have to right themselves, correct their body in space. We have 10-pound slam balls. Some students just need to come in, pick something heavy up and throw it. That's the essence of a sensory room. You're putting materials in there that are appropriate, so a student's not throwing a chair. And at the end, when they finish with their stations, they lay on the floor and they're squished. So everything that we do in there is predictable. There's a set sequence.
We're all done with sensory room. We're going to walk back to our class.
So after the sensory room, they're able to focus more. They're quieter and their hands are to themselves and they're able to listen to my directions. We're here, we came from the sensory room, we're ready to learn.
How does the sensory room make you feel?
Happy.
Since a sensory room provides an educational purpose, the more we document what we see, the students' behaviors, the activities the students choose, the more we can determine the effectiveness of our sensory program. There are resources for documentation on the Fun and Function website. We may want to consult with the school's occupational therapist to consider ways to modify the routine to maximize the effectiveness of our sensory room. There should be a give and take between the teacher and the therapist, and a way of charting the student's behavior after the session. This feedback is very important in the therapeutic process. The therapist can also be a part of the conversation when planning for and implementing sensory solutions in the classroom and problem-solving difficult parts of your day. Our journey is coming to an end. Thank you for counting on Fun and Function to provide resources and training that help us meet the needs of our students. At Fun and Function, our motto is empowering different. I hope we've inspired you to think differently about sensory processing in our students. It's a foundational process for success in school and life. Let's continue on this learning journey, and our work as sensory detectives will provide ongoing problem solving and support to your educational and therapeutic teams. At Fun and Function, our commitment is to you, our customer, and the children you serve.